And welcome everybody to the Summerland Camels Investor Q&A with Paul Martin. My name is Temin. I'm one of the campaign managers here at Birchal, and I'm so excited to be here to hear all about Summerland Camels, Australia's largest camel farm and dairy. So before we get started, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land from which I'm beaming to you today. Birchal is based on the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. So as the licensed intermediary for the offer, Birchal Financial Services is working with Summerland Camels on their upcoming crowdsourced funding offer, as you would have seen on our platform. So what is crowdsourced funding, you may ask? You may otherwise know it as equity crowdfunding, and it's a relatively new form of fundraising in Australia that allows startups and businesses to raise capital from a larger number of smaller or retail investors, as well as wholesale and more sophisticated investors through an online platform, which is Birchal. And this is instead of seeking funding from traditional sources such as banks or venture capitalists. Companies can turn to the general public, often their communities, to raise funds in exchange for equity in their business. So the information and discussion in this webinar is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as advice or a recommendation to invest. Please do your own research and always consider the offer document and the general CSF risk warning before investing. There's plenty of more information over at birchal.com if you'd like to read. Now, how is today's session going to run? Paul is going to take us through an awesome presentation for approximately 15-20 minutes, all about Summerland Camels, where they've come from, what they're looking to do with the capital raise, and then we'll switch over to a Q&A session. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, there's a little Q&A bubble there. So if you have any questions at all during today's session, which I hope you do, please pop them in the box. I will have plenty of time to go over them during this session. And don't worry, this session is being recorded as well. So if you have to jump off early for any reason, the recording will be sent around. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Tammin. Good morning to everyone in Queensland and afternoon for all those lucky enough to get an extra hour in your day in the southern states. My name's Paul Martin, CEO and founder of Summerland Camels. We've been overawed. I think we're over about 1,050 EOIs, so sorry if our paperwork will be a little bit delayed getting out to everyone. I did commit to calling everyone and saying hello. I know I got to a few of you, but yes, they were coming in thick and fast. And but anyway, we're on the journey, so we'll get going. So the inspiration, I suppose, for Summerland Camels was put together 30 years of sort of things plugging together. We have basically, we had a regenerative grazing business as well. Some 30 years ago, I was using camels for that. Camels are great for weed management, and they have this unique gut bacteria that breaks down poor quality feed, and they pass that on to cattle through water systems. So we were using it. I suppose it made cattle more efficient through drier seasons. So I suppose camels have been, and that was the inspiration, I suppose, for starting this up. I mean, camels have been getting culled in Australia for a long time, but it was really 10 years ago that the government did a large push along with some stakeholders to cull large numbers of feral camels in Central Australia. The camel culling has also been recently put forward as carbon offset methodology. So this action has created sort of outrage with other countries around the world that use camels as a centerpiece of their farming systems. And I felt I couldn't sit by and, culling wasn't the answer. So camels were, for those who don't know, I'll give you a little bit of history. So, camels were introduced into Australia in the 1800s, basically to lift heavy things. They became a pivotal part of our solution for delivering goods and infrastructure through Central Australia. They were brought here as livestock, along with their Punjabi cameleers, as in the diagram. During this time, England and India were fighting, so the Punjabi cameleers had to call themselves Afghani to actually get on the boats with and come over with the camels. So we still today refer to the things like the GAN line, which is the rail link between Adelaide and Darwin. So referring to that Afghan camel ear link. So in the 1930s, I suppose, our mail delivery system was made up a mixture of our Punjabi camel ear and their camel teams. We had European-based horse-drawn wagons at the time. And I suppose post-war mechanisation was coming in and created this hotbed of competition to deliver mail throughout Australia. So the straw that never broke the camel's back was the introduction of the White Australia policy in the 1930s that saw the law used to remove a competitor, and they got the camels deemed as being introduced to Australia, and they got taken off the livestock register and classified as feral, and they were ordered to be shot at the time. There was no record of camels getting shot at this time because the camel ears' respect for their animals was beyond any law, and they basically let them go in Central Australia. The photo here shows basically, I suppose, how unique camels were before mechanisation opened up tracks. One man could lead, up to 20 camels, all individually holding up to 3/4 of a tonne. So they were the cheapest means of moving cargo. So now coming on to, I suppose, the environmental adaptation of camels, and the numbers of camels are certainly growing in Australia and are having an impact on the land, but probably nothing compared to general livestock and other invasive species like pigs and cats. The feral classification is fairly key in that it creates a number of issues in that it's actually easier to get research dollars to cull camels than it is to get money for other research in the benefits of camels and their products. So this is what we're sort of pushing along with into the headwinds of that. The camel is the most environmentally adapted animal on the planet, and has been thriving in some of the most challenging regions on our planet. So for those who don't know, the Bactrian camel is a two-humped camel that's up in Mongolia, Kazakhstan region in the extreme cold and heat, and is the only land-based mammal that actually can drink seawater. The dromedary, which we have in Australia, is more adapted to the desert regions, and is the only mammal to be able to survive and recover from foot and mouth disease in 14 days, which is also an interesting fact with where we are with our disease status in Australia. The other cousins in the camelid family are the alpacas and llamas, which, as they say, they're the ones that spit. I think it's just generally due to the disappointment and the lack of height for their other cousins next door. But so it brings us on to, I suppose, the camel milk. It's the only mammal milk that people with dairy allergies can have. It doesn't curdle when it hits your gut acid, so it actually lines your gut and bowel, and is actually easy to absorb. The Melbourne University found that it had insulin-like proteins in it that benefit people with type 2 diabetes. So that research has come out just last year. Camel milk was also deemed the product most famously used by Cleopatra in her secret to amazing skin. So, and people have been seeing positive results with, the reactions to people with autism and also skin and gut treatment with people with major eczema issues. So, and we feel camel milk also offers a more environmentally sustainable alternative to the nut and grain-based products that are with less demand on water and land, broadacre cropping that these products take on. So at Summerland Camel, so we have utilised, it's been set up basically to utilise this resource and show how camels fit into modern agriculture. We have rescued and trained over 300 camels on our farm. That's for the dairy alone, and then more so beyond that for rides and other things. So and we have a large range of award-winning products, and that, you know, for gut and skin related issues, and so but Summerland has also become a destination, I suppose, where people can engage and understand and learn the benefits of camels. We have a capacity on farm with the size we are. We're about 400,000 litres of milk per year, and the dairy and processing is scalable and franchisable as well. So I just wanted to sort of show you a little bit, you know, how amazing the product is to work with. We have over 80 awards across all our products. So tourism, we regularly voted number one in our So we voted number one on TripAdvisor across the country. Our milk, cheese, and gelato have all won gold and silver awards at the Brisbane and Sydney shows. Our vodka, which I know everyone likes to talk about, has also won a silver award in last year's Australian Distillers Award. And our skincare, the body cream, won Product of the Year in 2020. So, you know, it's getting judged by people that, you know, off farm as well. So it's an extremely good product to work with. So working through our categories, you know, tourism is our number one at the moment. So it's currently our centerpiece of the operation, and the location is the key. You know, for anyone that's been out here, we're 45 minutes from the centre of Brisbane, and in the Scenic Rim, which has been recently voted one of the top 10 places in the world to visit. We were named number 5 in that region, so we've only been going for a very short period of time. Well, we're an hour from the Gold Coast. We're 20 minutes from the fastest growing city in Queensland, Ipswich. We're probably an hour from our major rural hubs of Warwick and Toowoomba. And we are based on the Cunningham Highway, which is the major inland artery to all these southern states. So, you know, it's a great place to, you know, be located from a tourism point of view. So, and with that in mind, like, we've had over 60,000 visitors come through the farm last year. So, you know, it really is our centre point for education and everything of what we do. Skincare is another. You know, we have an on-farm shop as well. So, you know, for people who haven't been out here, and the shop there shows one of our market days where we get up to 5,000 people a year come in. You know, 4 times a year we run those. Great attraction. And I suppose being in a region that's in the centre of the upcoming Olympics also, it's a huge focus, basically, and Summerland is the centre of that, of places to promote in Queensland tourism. You know, one of our first products we started, obviously after fresh milk, was skincare. So it's been designed around regenerating the skin. We've had some amazing feedbacks from customers. You know, obviously goat milk soap and all those things were brought out for skin issues. Well, this is the next step up. So anyone who has extreme allergies can handle camel milk. We did launch into pharmacies around August 2019 into around 1,200 stores just a few months prior to COVID. So with pharmacies sort of closing their doors, yeah, that launch sort of failed. We then quickly sort of withdrew from that strategy. We also had an export strategy to China at the time, which we sort of withdrew from, and quickly implemented our online digital marketing strategy to, I suppose, really educate the customer on why you should be using camel milk. So that, combined with our whole farm tour strategy, has really sort of driven us to this point. Yeah, our body cream in 2020 did win Product of the Year, as I said before, and sort of focused on for people with eczema and things like that. So We've been slowly building the awareness of camel milk as a skincare product, and I suppose the major opportunities we see are in that ASEAN countries like Singapore, Vietnam, Malaysia, Taiwan, South Korea, very much into the skincare products and are very aware of camel milk and its benefits. So we see that as probably the biggest growth prospects, for our skincare products. Dairy, obviously, we start with fresh milk. We've been building that with a home delivery really since COVID. That's sort of something that's really picked up. We've now sending over a couple of 100 litres a week to Melbourne and down to Sydney. Dairy, when we milk each day, we sort of get that fresh milk. We can then pretty well go either fresh milk, gelato or cheese production, and then we can freeze the excess stuff to use as powder. So that's how we sort of manage the expansion of our dairy and sort of that daily milk production. So the sales channels really for our milk at the moment are on-farm purchases. So we get a large volume goes through our cafe, just in particularly, particularly people coming to the farm. The Somali and Arabic communities are very familiar with the use of camel milk and what it's good for. So, and then a lot of other people that have taken it on for the medical benefits. The local organic stores up here and home delivery, as I said. So we've got now a 21-day shelf life, and we're really looking at sort of export to Singapore as the sort of push forward with it, because we can get to Singapore via the Brisbane airport basically in a day and a half on the shelf. So it's really put us in good stead there. For those who may have seen our cheese, we certainly, from skincare, we started looking for extended shelf life. We developed this marinated feta cheese. It's a fantastic product. It's got a 2-year shelf life. It's won gold medals in Brisbane and Sydney. Cost of production is a challenge but we're increasing those yields. We're using UQ, the university students, to help us try and get a little bit more yield out of the milk, which is sort of really helping get our price point there. The value adding to the whey helps us in that as well. The sales channels for it are predominantly on farm through those health food stores, home delivery, and we do send a shipment around every quarter to San Francisco. So over in the US, it's quite a good contract for us. Again, it's interesting. There's sort of a better price point over there by exporting it, but we do see the major opportunity with the feta cheese is to actually get that distribution center system going around Australia. So that's certainly going to be the focus of the next 12 months. The other one of probably our key product going forward for dairy expansion is camel milk powder. So we're seeing a massive growth in this. We used about 40,000 litres this year into powder. We've got orders in excess of 60,000 litres on our table at the moment for this year. So it's increasing rapidly as people that can't get the milk, put in orders, get sent over online. It's very much an e-commerce type product as well. It can be turned into chocolate, and we're currently doing an R&D project on a sort of child-friendly chocolate, and also into that sort of adult protein bar for the people with dairy intolerances. So the major focus at the moment is sort of get the blending of that milk powder right. So it's a bit of a challenge with freeze-dried powder and getting it down to a small enough grain so it dissolves. So we're doing a bit of work on that, so we can really expand that as an ingredient in other things. So another good one, if you've been to the farm, most people might have tried our gelato. So it's an amazing product. We really only serve it at the cafe at the moment, just for people with dairy allergies, and it's a bit of a novelty. We've done all the work to get it into a sort of a Ben and Jerry style tub, for that dairy allergy market. And, where we've basically got it sitting there ready to go, looking for, with funding, we could push that product out into the market. So it's quite a good product. It's sort of got about 40% milk and then other ingredients in it. So it makes your milk go a lot further. Another very interesting product that we've got is our vodka. Again, it was a value add out of our way. It's one of the Distillers Award, as I said before. We do all the steps up to the brewing, and then we send it in to imbibers in Ipswich, who do the distilling. So we don't distill it on farm. The vodka production gives us sort of the ability to share, I suppose, in these early stages, that cost with the cheese, so we can get that cheese at a good price point out in the market. So the targets for the vodka are really probably exporting to the US and China. Have showed a lot of interest in that. A few challenges getting into the US. Again, for anyone that doesn't know the process of, we turn the lactose into sugar, and then can ferment it from there. So it's quite an amazing process to value add that product. And of course, we've got the full paddock to plate. We have a range of meat products as well. So camel meat has massively increased in demand. Of course, we got halal butchers, and really, I suppose, as people have been able to start to get farmed product rather than wild caught, they're really starting to appreciate the quality of that the meat can be. There's, I suppose, we've really got to get camels back on the livestock register. We really do need to develop this whole full circle market. The export demand has grown immensely, or the appetite for Australian camels has certainly grown, because we're the only country in the world that has camels that has a disease-free status. So the real limiting factor is probably a domesticated supply chain and abattoirs that are suited for that. So the sales channels we use for meat at the moment, as I said, we supply local butchers. We send a lot of halal product down to Sydney to the markets and Ramadan festivals down there. I think the target going forward is meat patties into a Coles IGA around Australia with a high quality meat product. And we sell quite a lot of a range of products at our farm, with jerky and salami and a lot of charcuterie products, barbecue sausages. So there's not, we can pretty well turn it into anything. As far as sustainability, camels and sustainability, really, the aim is to, our aim is to find a home for a lot of our camels. We use camels for biodiversity, like we did in our cattle operation. So there's a lot of people buying our camels and using them, especially now that there's a lot of organic farms around. So as an organic form of weed control, as the demand for meat increases, I suppose, so will farmers in co-grazing, using camels in co-grazing. So there's a few things that have happened out in for camels to actually control woody weeds and things like that. So, but to ensure a good supply of, to our dairy and all the rest of it, sort of having that, people run those camels certainly, and get them out of that sort of feral population is what we're sort of looking for to promote. So, okay, so that's sort of heading up to where we are for, some of the investment perks, I suppose, to getting involved. You get exclusive access to products and events here at the farm, invitation to shareholder-only events, special discounts on products. You're joining a community of passionate supporters also, and be part of a transformative journey in a sustainable agriculture. So that's what we're very passionate about here. Your investment goes along to support, I suppose, continued innovation in sustainable camel-based products. As I said, we actually UQ now currently has 6 students doing their masters on camel milk. So the movement's happening behind the background. They're working on different pasteurization methods and the effect on the proteins, their powdering methods and the effect on proteins. They're also got a bunch working on the cheese yield, as we spoke about. So some real commercial outcomes can come out of that. So educational awareness campaigns. So we're continually growing this sort of tourism, a continual online marketing campaigns. You can see we're fairly active in that space. We do need to increase our sort of above the line advertising in TV and radio. We have got an on-farm school-based training education. So we're very much in reach of a whole lot of schools. So we do have that in place at the moment. We have a lot of schools coming to the farm each week. We do expand the brand dedicated to health, sustainability and growth. We're always innovating at Summerland Camels, and I suppose pushing that powder-based product into that health and wellbeing space is what we're looking at doing further this year. And I suppose expanding our presence as a more sustainable, environmentally friendly old dairy alternative. We're sort of also rescuing and training more camels, so increase the awareness and the benefits of camels in the Australian agricultural system. And I suppose, and eventually get camels back onto the livestock register and managed as livestock. I think, also you have an ability to get in early. We're using these rounds to grow our community of like-minded investors. We've de-risked the operation by setting up these supply lines already and opening up these sales channels. And we are expanding slowly to rebuild, to build the revenue in line with sort of increased demand. And hopefully, as we raise capital, the share price will drive up on future raises as we, move towards, what's on the horizon with, eventual, trade sales or whatever. So, there's certainly a big expansion plan looking forward. So that sort of covers, I suppose, the use of funds. We've got there, product development, as I said, sales, marketing, infrastructure. So we've got a little bit of electricity upgrades and things like that, and the dairy expansion and feed storage is becoming important as well to manage our cost of production. So we've got now, I suppose, we've broken up our minimum and maximum raise. So if we've set our minimum at about 400,000, if we can hit that target, we basically can focus on product development with our powder. We'll increase the run sizes of our skincare, which helps us with our price point. There, we'll increase our digital marketing and keep building that domestic and overseas market. Complete our cafe expansion. So anyone who's been out, we're sort of certainly some weekends we're getting up to our capacity and upgrading our farm electricity for, I suppose, future pasteurization expansion and things like that. So as we want to increase our pasteurizer sizes and stuff, power is going to be an issue. We've also got our maximum. We're looking at up around 1.5. This will allow us to do all of those things and, I suppose, get that powder product developed and taken through to the market sales and marketing budget to really take that forward. Also launch our chocolate range into health food stores as another big one. Expand distribution of cheese across Australia, I spoke about earlier. We can get our vodka export set up into those Asian markets. Farm processing capacity, will upgrade that with that bigger pasteurizer system and the electricity that goes with it. Upgrade our cafe facilities. So we just so we can increase those numbers where, as I said, we're getting a couple of thousand a week through the farm, and the inbound tourism really hasn't in Australia, is only really on the cusp of opening up. So we've got a plan to increase the landscaping around the cafe just so people will stay longer, and our dairy expansion and feed capacity as we spoke about. So our business overview, we're a growth company. It's not likely to be a dividend company, so we're locked into growing this market and the herd for some time. So our full expansion plans will require further capital as we hit cash flow targets from each raise, and that should increase the share price as we go. So the aim is to basically exceed demand of about 500,000 litres a year to where we see an opportunity to then expand into another dairy west of here, just focusing on milk production. So and we see this model being able to be rolled out across the country for basically milk powder production. At this point, we'd be a large enough, for a trade sale to a bigger investment fund at this point to give existing shareholders a kick on. So that's the sort of growth model we're looking at. So so I just like to thank everyone for coming onto the webinar today, and I suppose there's another slide as we go to questions, and you get your questions in. It's based on our revenue.
So Paul, all of this information will be in the offer document, so we can just leave that one there. You might want to scroll back to the previous slide.
Yep. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for such an awesome presentation. It was so great to see a bit of a background in the business, and I'm super excited to get stuck into the questions that have come through already. If you haven't already popped your questions in, just jump into that box at the bottom. And yeah, we'll start with the first question. Well, actually, I would like to ask one of my own to start with. I would love to know how many camels you have on the farm at the moment, and if you have a favourite.
Yeah, well, we have about 400 on the farm at the moment. So favourites, well, they change on a regular basis. I've been Remy was one of our first ever calves. So he's now just come into the riding team and frustrates everyone. But as a domesticated camel coming into riding rather than feral, which is interesting, they're a little bit more spoilt than the feral ones. So, but we'll put him down as a favourite for now.
Awesome, thank you for that. And can you tell us a fun fact about camels that people might not know?
Fun fact. Well, there's I suppose the fun fact part, I suppose, is the camels with no hump are called Humphrey, but they're also the humps aren't full of water; they're actually full of fat. So there's it's a storage mechanism for feed. So they rather than water. So
awesome. That's a great start to know. Thank you for that. So given the wide range of activities that you have, how do you balance that with the numbers of camels that you have?
Yeah, so I mean, we're a working farm. It's constantly operating through the weekend, and I suppose the dynamics, the cafe really is cordoned off, and people can come in there, but they are in the centerpiece. You're feeding camels over the fence. The whole thing is a really inclusive experience. So, and then the farm tours go through the whole system from start to finish, so they can see where we train, where we put them through the dairy. We got a lot of calves on the ground at the moment. It's calving season, so they get to see all that. It certainly has its challenges during calving season when there's a few resources need to be pulled away doing helping out. But it works and rolls sort of 7 days a week.
Wow, that's amazing. And given the number of activities and the number of tourists that come through, what biodiversity protection methods do you have in place?
As in, I suppose, biodiversity methods for the animal itself and the land. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, protection.
So we see camels, as I said, they that gut health issue that we pass on to cattle. We just do a regenerative type grazing methodology here, where we're always rotating the animals to that are down in the paddock, because we actually have a because of their 10 to 13 month gestation period, we actually have a pregnant a gestating herd or a milking herd, and then a pregnant herd down the paddock, which is different to cattle. Cattle, you're milking the same ones, they're pregnant all the time, and they have a calf and then they go through. So whereas camels, it's one half is milking and the other half we involve in our farm and rotate around the property and sort of rebuild that soil health. We put some cattle in there as well, because that manure really, that biodiversity of manure helps the soil and regenerates the landscape.
No, of course, that's a perfect answer. Thank you. And do you have special vets? Do the camels need special treatment?
Yeah, so we were lucky enough when we started 8 years ago to get the, I suppose, leading camelid vet at University of Queensland, Margie Bale, involved. And I suppose she was very passionate about camelids and has landed on the doorstep of having, access to 500 camels regularly, over the last 8 years. So she's pretty well the premium camel vet in Australia,
Wow.
at least, if not around the world. So, for Western style veterinary practices, I'd say.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. And is all of the meat halal?
Yes, unless we turn it into sausages. So it's all certified halal. And then we've actually just done some work on using beef fat in sausages rather than pork. And that's so the charcuterie products with fat in them are not at the moment, and along with our barbecue sausages can be now. So but it's we just go down that. We use a local abattoir.
Yeah, great. And now just a question about Summerland in general and investing in you guys. Will investors be investing in the company as a whole, or in any certain aspects of it?
Yes, it's as a whole. So it's all the products. It's the camel milk. It's the future expansion. So it's the whole box and dice. So Summerland at the moment, rents land, has a long-term lease in place for the land, which is a separate entity. But the tourism entity, the products and all the rest of it is all in the mix.
Awesome, thank you. And now a little bit about your products. Venturing outside of venturing out in vodka and powdered milk, will these two become the main target for the revenue, or do you plan on growing the farm as well?
So the main revenue stream going forward will be the powder. So the powder into nutraceuticals is the target market. So vodka and cheese run hand in hand together, obviously, because if you're selling cheese, you've got whey. So those two products I see as more of a introductory to camel products, because they're novelty. Everyone will try a cheese, they're of anything. So it helps. It opens the door to consumers and, I suppose, distributors looking for different products. But really, the powder is the one that drives the reason for having the dairy, and also the skincare. So, which is very scalable. So, and easy to send through e-commerce, easy to send over to and distribute overseas. So, between skincare and nutraceuticals are the key components to driving the revenue forward.
Awesome, thank you. And you mentioned, to exporting overseas. What countries are showing the most interest currently in your products?
Yeah, so our base product obviously goes to the US with our cheese, so that they're already in place. So they have started to take a lot of other products, but the ASEAN countries definitely, China's milk powder. There's some challenges getting 100% milk powder products into China, which is why going into a nutraceutical is important. They have protections there for their Mongolian camel milk and local producers for 100% commodity type products. So they really want to keep that out. So developing it as a nutraceutical suits that market, and also the Malaysian, Vietnam, those markets really have camel as a high-end product. So we see those as a real sort of low-hanging fruit for our export.
Awesome, thank you. And we've had a number of questions come through about the terms of the offer. So I might just jump in and answer them quickly and just elaborate to everyone what stage of the campaign we're in. So we're currently still in the expression of interest campaign, essentially where Paul and Summerland Camels are going out and assessing market interest in the offer, and then all of the key terms, such as the minimum target, the maximum target, the valuation, share price, all of that information will be available in the offer document when the investment offer goes live. In that document as well, you'll be able to see a full structure of the business, financial statements, and a bit of a deeper dive into where the company is currently at. But as I mentioned, all of that information will be available in the offer document. And in terms of return on investment and dividends, this will depend. Often a lot of these early stage businesses will invest all of the profits back into the business. As Paul said, this is a growth business, so that will be outlined in the offer document as well. And another question here about listing on the ASX. Obviously, we can have hopes and dreams about this, but having talking about this too clearly falls into the realms of future projections. And as this is still early stages for a lot of these businesses, it's just too early to tell. And ASIC, the regulatory body for CSF, takes a really firm view about future projections. But yes, I hope that answers all of your questions. Paul, I would love to know, obviously you seem to love what you do, and we've heard all about the pros and cons. Are there any cons or challenges about running a camel farm and dairy?
Oh, every day. Yes, you got a very interesting animal, I suppose, to work with. But I think that as a team, to actually systemize the milking of camels and to overcome all those hurdles that I suppose, they're, and I suppose also putting together a paddock to plate, right through to cafe, all that production. It's certainly challenges, but we've sort of overcome them, one by one, and just the challenge with camels, I suppose, is you're taking a feral animal, and it's just amazing. I mean, we do it every day here, but I think it's when you look back and you're blown away at sort of re-domesticating this animal and to be milking them, and it's quite amazing, really, to see that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And we've just got someone asking here, how many people are employed in the business currently, and how many camels can you fit on the land that you have? 2-in-1 question.
Yeah, so employment at the moment, we sit around 15, and then we probably expand through the farm and cafe, and then that'll expand a bit on weekends, because we employ a lot of local kids to help in the cafe on the weekend. It's created a nice little hub. Everyone's moved out of Brisbane during COVID and set up on in these rural towns, and of course their kids have got to try and go back to the city to work. So it's we've built this, and that's the aim of the business, to make it something that is really embedded in the scenic rim and becomes, I suppose, part of the community. The capacity of the farm, as I said, about around 400,000 litres, which is about 250 camels milked a day. Twice a day is about the capacity. So that's about where at the moment we're milking about 60 a day, which matches our current sales. So we sort of really have been diligent on just milking what we can sell and not not over extending ourselves. So we can, just as we increase sales, we can keep increasing the herd. So we can milk 110 without any infrastructure changes as such. But we really want to sort of try and ramp that up and put some other facilities on farm to handle the milk better and handle some weather conditions as well.
Yeah, sounds like a great plan. And we have a question here about, will investors have a voice in regards to expanding? And I would like to layer another question on top of that. Obviously, going through CSF, you're welcoming such a large plethora of investors into your business. Are you looking for any kind of strategic advice? Will you be welcoming feedback from investors? And yeah, will they have a voice in the business?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely. It's I mean, our vision is to sort of obviously stay as local and get products into the Australian market as much as we can. The reality is that probably there's overseas countries have a better awareness of camel products, and rather than taking on more investment, it's better to open up those sale channels and export that product to the people that want it and need it. And I think as we increase powder production, what that does is decrease the cost of production of the milk, which then allows us which opens up a massive sales channel to get that across Australia, I suppose, into your Coles and Woolies type, which is often a regular question. When do you go to Coles and Woolies? Well, at a point when you've got your costs extremely low and under control. So if we're exporting a big volume of powder and that's creating the economic benefits for the company along with skincare, then that's going to allow us a better price point into the local Australian market. So we're here to stay in the scenic rim, so you can't up and move us. So it's about certainly building that community here as a good solid Australian made product, locally supported, and then exporting to the world.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And where can people buy your products? Are you stocked in supermarkets? Do you go to market stalls? Can people buy online?
Yeah, so if you're lucky enough to be or in the southeast corner, you can get home delivery. So that's obviously picked up since COVID, a lot of that home delivery stuff. So we do send our milk and cheese through the local market organics and organic stores. We've just started to go and export down into the southern states. So you'll be able to get camel milk down in those regions as well. Skincare, we can go online, definitely. Powder we can do online. Vodka's pretty much online. It is in Dan Murphy's as one of their artisan products, but again, online, and that whole sort of interaction online is where we do most of our sales of those products.
So can someone go online right now and buy a sample pack of products? We have someone asking if they'd like
certainly.
to buy.
Yeah, certainly. So all our, jump on our website, you can sort of see, navigate around, and, there's a lot of, our farm tours and rides. So we obviously have a very civic platform to go if you're coming to the farm and enjoying out those sort of tourism products. And then we have sort of skincare and you can also then go into home delivery for our cold products if you're sort of within the regions that we deliver to at this stage.
Fantastic, thank you. Now we have just a couple more questions here. Someone would love to know how intensive the milking process is. Is it similar timings to cows?
Yeah, so a little bit. We keep the calves with the camels, so it's they sort of get this bond, I suppose. There's a bit of a myth about having the calves next to the cows when you milk. The actual componentry, the milking facility is all the same as a cow dairy. A little bit of different pulsation rates and stuff, but that stuff's all pretty well mirrored on the bovine dairy industry. It's really just that getting that let down of the milk. So it's just extremely important not to have stress on the cows, because they're actually, on the camels, I'll say, is they have require an extreme level of oxytocin to let down milk, and that actually also aborts a fetus. So that's why they can't be pregnant whilst they lactate. So that's a survival mechanism for really harsh conditions. You don't want to be pregnant and raising another one. So, and the other thing is you can't have stress, which is cortisol, which overrides oxytocin. So, and they won't let down milk. So there's a few little unique things we do that I learned in past history with animal handling of how we get camels into the dairy. So we like to think that make them think that it's their idea to go in there. Basically, we don't want to be pushing them and manhandling them. So they're very repetitive. They're there waiting in the morning to be milked. The calves go back on after milking. At the moment, we only milk once a day. We have the option to milk twice a day. So the calves just spend the day with the cows and then get separated again in the evening.
Okay, and how many calves do you usually have, like calves to camel ratio?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, this year we generally calve about 100 a year. So, which is around that 100, 110 we can milk. So we're geared up for that. So, I think we've had about 40, 50 or so this year so far. So a lot of little babies and plenty of lancelots and all the rest of it getting around.
Of course. And what are the regulatory challenges in getting camels documented as a domestic animal as opposed to feral?
So the challenge is actually getting an industry body going. And with dairy, it's very hard because you're only going to have one or two dairy operators at any one time, which is why going down the sustainable farming and meat enterprise is a lot, I suppose, is needed, because you then get a lot more stakeholders involved. So an industry body needs funding. It needs a lot more stakeholders to put in the funding. So once that sort of happens and more people are supplying are involved, then we can set up a body, which will then allow us to sort of have those discussions with government at that point.
Great, thank you. I might just wrap up with one final question. We've got a couple more here. One person asked, how soon will the offer document be available? So I might answer that in one moment. But just one more question for you here. How many acres per camel?
Yeah, well, you pretty well run them. If you're running them in a broad acre sense, it's really down to what herbage is available. So camels will eat a lot of different stuff. They'll eat the prickles, they'll eat the leaves off the trees, branches on the ground. So, if you're just going to give them all grass, and you're comparing apples with apples, then you probably the same size camel will eat about 2/3 of what a cow, a similar weight cow will. But generally in a mixed environment where there's trees and all the rest of it, the camels will only probably eat about 1/3 of what the cattle do.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. Sorry, we do have one more question here while we're on the topic. What feed is required for the animals? And do they just graze on the existing land? And how will potential drought affect the farm?
Yeah, so the camels love it when it's dry. It's actually in this climate here, you never see the camels so healthy because it's extremely dry here at the moment. I mean, the question of drought's a bit of a rabbit hole. I don't sort of, in my regenerative farming background, it's sort of not a terminology I use, because it's sort of really about management and managing the amount of feed you got to the amount of animals you have. So obviously as it gets dry, feed resources come more expensive, and it's just about managing that. I mean, camels can survive on pretty well anything. That's their, bovines can do 60 litres a day of milk. Camels are, 1 to 13 litres a day, but camels can do that on pretty ordinary feed, whereas cattle need, silage and grain and all the rest of it. So, what we do find though, the more we can mix up the feed and give them a bit of a biodiversity in their feed. So hay, other roughages, they're an animal that naturally in their natural environment would prefer to walk along and eat about 20 different species, which is really what keeps their gut healthy. And that flows to the taste of the milk. So the more different food we can get, rather than feeding one straight product, the milk quality gets better.
Wow, that's so interesting. I mean, they sound like humans. I think like we're relatively fussy eaters.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they're not too fussy, but it's just what they can certainly and if they've got access to browse and stuff like that, they love that to eat off the ground, which keeps them healthier too, because that's worms is pretty well the only kryptonite to camels. So managing in this sort of climate.
No, of course. Thank you. I've got one final question for you. Obviously, this is such an incredible business that you've built, and you've already expanded into so many different products. Is there any kind of mad scientist idea that you would love to make with camel milk? A new food product, a new skincare product, something like this that you haven't expanded into already?
Yeah, well, I think that a liquid yogurt, so I suppose predominantly people go into the shop and buy a product called Yakult, which is, not wanting to defame a product, is pretty well acid and sugar. But the theory is it's about, it's sort of supposed to be a liquid yogurt that triggers the gut and all the rest of it. Camel milk would be superb for that. I think the Mongolian cultures up there, they actually have a mixture between camel milk and mare's milk that is their premium gut health treatment product. I think, having a product like that people can take as a liquid yogurt for gut health, I think would be extremely beneficial.
That would be amazing. No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Paul, for such an insightful presentation. And thank you to everybody who's joined today's webinar. I hope you've enjoyed that as well. As I mentioned earlier, a recording of this video will be sent around to everybody who's registered, just in case anybody missed out or had to jump off early. Now, expression of interest are still open for Summerland Camels and will be open for another week or so. So if you haven't already, jump into the Birchal platform to the Summerland Camels profile, have a read of their company profile and watch their wonderful pitch video. I personally love it. And now the early access campaign, so the early access to the investment offer will be available on the 24th of October. So that's the Tuesday in about a week and a half. And that offer will be in early access to start with, only available to those that have expressed interest. So if you're wanting to come in on day one, make sure you've got your expression of interest submitted. And as I mentioned before as well, the offer document, the subscription agreement, the constitution, all of the terms of the offer will be available when the offer goes live as well. So thank you again so much, Paul, and thank you to everyone for joining. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Tammin, and thanks, everyone.